Okay, welcome back to the channel. If you've been here watching some videos, then it's time for a little story time and a little bit of behind the scenes of Browzwear. Lots of people hear about Browzwear. There's not a lot of information circulating in the 3D community about Browzwear, so I wanted to take this opportunity to show you the inside of the software, starting with just a little bit about the interface and how it looks behind the scenes, what it's like to use it. It is a very complex 3D program. It's not as easy as Clo 3D or Style 3D. However, there are more, I want to say, pattern maker or technical or production features inside of the software, which makes it kind of ideal for some of the big companies. However, keep in mind that it is a pattern making program, and it is focused on pattern making and focused on 3D rendering and making sure that the projects that you finish are looking very, very realistic. So I was working at Browzwear a few months ago. I was there for almost a year, and I want to say that it was a wonderful experience to be able to work for the software, to see what happens behind the scenes and what it takes to bring these features to the public, to the users. What I'm doing here right now is just making a basic sweatshirt. So I'm showing you what the software actually looks like, which I think if you're not an indie user, or if you have never seen anything on the university, or just the videos that they have on YouTube, this is a good idea. You can watch it slow, you can you know what I mean, you can just kind of see some of the features and read some of the things that are going on inside of the software. So there's a lot as I make this sweatshirt going on inside of the software. They use a lot of pattern points, Bezier curves, and this is really ideal for shaping the pattern. It's really ideal for just being able to manipulate your fit. And what I'm doing right now is just reshaping my front and back neck, bringing in my shoulder, and like I said, I'm doing all of this based off of the form provided here by Figure Forms. If you want to know about Figure Forms, just reach out to me. YouTube is fine. You can DM me or ask me in a comment about the form that I'm using here. However, if you see, the context menu system is pretty intuitive if you've used any 3D software. So what's going on your right hand of the screen is all of your details and all of the things that you need to know about the functionality that you have selected. So right now I'm just, going through, it's called the context menu on the right hand side. So what's happening as I select points and lines, those menus are changing with whatever it is that I'm selecting on the actual 3D pattern. So right now I'm just making sure, checking my shoulder slope. I use a grid system, which they do have settings for. I use the grid system and my grid set at 1 inch. I am drafting the garment in inches. And with the grid system, I kind of am able to, make alignments that I need. You see, I kind of try to line things up and smooth the lines. But the grid system gives me an idea of how much I'm moving. Right now, they do have a pattern trace movement, but because I'm drafting the pattern, I'm not really worried about the movements that I'm making for fitting purposes. That could come later if you also have a pattern that you're importing in. This system is really good for importing patterns. There's not as many issues with pattern imports, and it does clean up patterns quite nicely. However, there are, a few features and nuances that you need to know. As you can see, your sleeves in the system, they have to be on a axis of 90 degrees. So you have to kind of have your grain line in mind. You have to have, even though the sleeve is turned, the grain line is still straight. So these are little, nuances that in Browzwear you have to kind of, figure out and make sure that you're aligning things properly to show up in the 3D scene properly. So that's why my sleeves are turned this way. They have differences, like I said, in points, notch points. They have what they call pattern corner points. And the corner points are actually graded points. Those are the points that actually get the grading applied to it. And the points in the middle are the points that are kind of, easily manipulated. The corner points you can manipulate, but it's a little bit harder to, it's kind of a fixed point, I should say. So once you can see at the bottom of the screen, as I'm selecting the corner points, it's like the main guide of the pattern shape that I'm using them for. And then the points on the, in between the lines, those are a little bit about shaping. As you can see on the left-hand side, those are my pattern pieces. As I'm creating pieces, more and more pieces, the list of the pattern pieces is getting longer. As I create pieces, I have to go ahead and align them in what is called the arrange mode. So if you see me switching to like a really miniature figure and aligning the pattern pieces on there, that is called the arrange mode. And that's, if you don't have the piece set up in the arrange mode, you will not see it in the 3D. It will be like it doesn't exist. So sometimes you can create pieces and play around with them and fit them and measure them before you actually go into the arrange mode and place them on the figure. So the arrange mode is sort of like, other programs have the arrange dots. For Browzwear, it is a specific mode, and it comes with a few different, I want to say, options and just placement. It's you can place it flat, you can place it round. They have a lot of different, I want to say, placement abilities, a little bit more than other programs, meaning, whether you're placing straps, it gives you the option of placing collars, and there are certain things that are set up to be more intuitive to what type of pattern piece that you're placing. So if you have something that's a gusset, it has its own type of arrangement mode. So if I'm placing something that's a gusset under the arm, it will conform to the idea of a gusset. So right now I've created my pattern piece. And now I'm going to go ahead and go on to texturing and adding the realistic textures. So for the first time in a couple of, well, for the first time ever, I should say, first time ever, I had used just last week the fab machine. So I had been going on and on and on and on about I wanted to get a fab machine. I want to use the fabric so I could test my fabrics and input all the information, and I finally got to use it. So it was really cool to be able to see how realistic the fabric testing is in Browzwear. So if you see any fabric that you select that has been tested, if you look in the physics, it's really an intuitive test. It takes about, I want to say 20 minutes to half an hour to maybe get, or maybe a little bit less, to get everything together and then to test the fabrics. I want to say it was about 30 minutes, of fun times to test everything. But along with testing the fabrics, when you're combining the fabrics, you have to realize that if you're butting one fabric up against another, you do need to adjust, just like you would do with real life garments. Sometimes you need some kind of fixed point, or sometimes you need one fabric to not stretch and the other one to stretch into place. There are certain things that you can do in Browzwear, certain things called shrink and force multiplier. There's a lot going on that actually mimics the real garment production features. So I'm just adding colors. This is the colorway section of Browzwear, and right now I'm not in the colorway section, but I am just adding colors and manipulating the color as I go. I didn't go to the colorway section, but you're going to see that in just a second. I am adding graphics, which you can also use the Adobe Substance. Um, too many choices. I can't even verbally explain what's going on right now. But you can use all of the Substance texture settings within Browzwear. You'll be able to see just how many different, there's the colorway section. So even the graphics, I am placing all of the graphics. I can just kind of copy and paste, click and drag. So some of the things are really intuitive. You can add different embellishments and you can add different things to your actual graphics. This is just the PNG that I brought in. And I sized it, I believe, in Photoshop. I made this actual, sized graphic in Photoshop to bring it in just for this purpose. So I have a band at the bottom, just a lazy day sweatshirt with cute butterfly embroideries or graphics. And then, we're here. We're starting to do the lighting. They have a whole lighting system, which is pretty new to the software. It is really intuitive to add lights and to get the lighting settings you want. There are a lot of lighting settings in different places, and you're able to save them and like reuse them over and over again, just like most of your other softwares. So what I would say is I use Browzwear every day. So Storytime, it wasn't easy to learn. I had learned OptiText before Browzwear and Clo3D before Browzwear, so that did help me to learn Browzwear. They have a tremendous university section. Like I said, working there, I got to see how it is not easy to, create all of these things in a software that makes sense to the user. And the team is great, and it was a great experience. I am now working at another place doing lingerie using Browzwear every day. So you will see more and more little videos, a day in the life of Browzwear user, tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff as I navigate through the real world, real life utilization of Browzwear. I know there's a lot going on in the 3D industry, a lot of competitive voices, programs, but this is it, guys. So this is your look at Browzwear, and I hope you enjoyed that. Bye bye.